When we think of the fall of Rome, the same scenes appear in most of our minds. Barbarians pressing against the walls, legions falling apart, emperors poisoned in palaces. But the truth is this: empires are not destroyed only by attacks from the outside. They rot from within. And one of the things that speeds up that rot the most is money. Rome did not end only because of invasions or because of a few bad emperors. It ended because its money collapsed. And the lessons that come out of that monetary crisis are still valid today for every modern country that says, we'll play with money a bit, nothing will happen. Let's go back a bit. For centuries, the backbone of Rome's economy was the silver denarius. It was first minted around 211 BC. It was almost pure silver. Roman soldiers received their salaries in it. Merchants wanted to be paid in it, and people held their savings in it. The denarius was not just a piece of metal. It was trust in metallic form. The strength of the empire and the strength of its money were one and the same. If people believed in Rome, they believed in its money. But running an empire is not cheap. You have to feed the army, build roads, construct aqueducts, finance wars. By the 2nd century AD, Rome was under pressure from all sides. Germanic tribes, the Parthians in the east, internal troubles. Tax revenues could not keep up with military spending. So the emperors turned to a very old method, hollowing out the money from the inside. Asking the people for more tax was risky. Nobody likes that. Instead, they secretly lowered the silver content of the denarius. The numbers tell the whole story. In the time of Augustus, the silver content of the denarius was around 95%. At the beginning of the century, in the time of Caracalla, this ratio fell to around 50%. In the middle of the century, in the time of Gallienus, it dropped below even 5%. In other words, money that had once been proper silver turned into a bronze disc lightly coated with silver. People could see and feel the difference already. The result? Inflation. Prices soared because money was no longer based on any real value. Wheat that used to cost 1 denarius suddenly cost dozens of denarii. This wasn't some theoretical issue economists argue about. It was a very concrete problem that shattered people's daily lives. Soldiers demanded higher wages in order to cope with rising prices. Merchants didn't want to take debased coins and turned instead to gold or straight barter. Local economies, once money became unreliable, were forced back into a barter system. As confidence fell, the emperors made an even worse move. They printed even lower quality money and thought, if we print a lot, maybe we'll manage. A complete vicious circle, and we see this same cycle again and again in many inflation crises throughout history. The period when all this hit the ceiling is known as the crisis of the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284 AD, Rome lived through nearly 50 years of pure chaos. Invasions, plagues, civil wars, economic collapse. Emperors were changing so fast that some could only last a few months. What lay behind all this political turmoil? A shattered financial system. The state was demanding taxes in money whose value was dropping by the day. Farmers couldn't carry this burden and abandoned their fields. Trade networks broke apart. And in order to keep the system alive, the state tried every kind of coercive method, fixing prices, imposing compulsory labor obligations, and so on. But it didn't work. Then Diocletian came onto the stage, saying, "This can't go on like this." He issued the edict on maximum prices in 301. He imposed price ceilings on nearly 1,000 goods and services, from grain to wages. The penalty for disobeying was death, But the core problem was this. Once money had become worthless, a decision on prices written on paper or stone meant nothing. You can't force prices down by decree. The result, as you might guess, the black market exploded. Official trade almost came to a halt. People very quickly learned this lesson. The law does not fix broken money. In the end, Rome completely scrapped the denarius. Around 312 AD, Constantine the Great introduced the golden solidus. Its purity was constant. It inspired confidence. This coin was used for centuries in the Eastern Roman, that is, Byzantine Empire. But for the West, it was too late. Years of debasing the denarius had rotted Rome's economic heart from the inside. The armies were already barely staying together. Trade was broken, confidence was gone. The fall of Rome was not one single big day, but a decline stretched out over years. And one of the sharpest threads in that unraveling was the collapse of the monetary system. So what does it mean for today? This: if you kill the money, you kill the empire. Rome thought it could trick its people by stamping coins that looked the same on the outside but had less value inside. Today,